In this video, we're going to focus on how we can create a custom plugin where we have these labels here nicely matching with our items here. We have these nicely bolded, have this one in color and the cost here as well, which is another data set here. So all of these data sets are being reflecting in here as well as a nice table within the canvas. So let's start to look how to create a custom scale with multiple layers of text. So the first thing what we need to do here is make sure you get the boiler template, which you can find here on chartjs3.com getting started, and this link you can find as well in the description box. Once you're on here, copy this chunk of code and you're good to go. Next, if you want to support our channel, check out our Patreon page here, and of course we have a Discord channel. Join if you want to. All the links are in the description box. Alright, let's scroll down here and let's start to work on this. So in this case, we will have a few things that we need to do. First of all, we will have a additional data set. So I'm going to copy this and put that in here, put a comma, save that here, save, refresh. There we are. So once we have this, what I want to do here is make sure that this is slightly different. So say here, maybe the cost, and I will make this black. There we are. Save that, refresh. Alright, now what I want to do, I want to stack them up on top of each other, so it will be nice. So I'm going to say X scale, then stacked true, and of course for the Y scale, comma, stack true. Save, refresh. So now we have this. We're going to look at the next part, is basically start working on removing this item here and removing all these tick marks. So what I'm going to do here, comma, and then we can say here the grid, and then we want a few things removed. I want these lines removed, so we're going to say here, what is it, draw, I guess draw on chart area, and we're going to set it on false. By doing that, we remove these lines. If we want to remove these ticks, we can say here draw ticks false, draw ticks set on false. Alright, because I still want to keep them for now, so we have a nice visual. I will just leave this on true, and basically if you want to remove both of them at the same time, you could say here display false. It will remove both of these items. So while we do that, you might notice here the following. We have a lot of, or we have less space here. So what we're going to do here is start adding up the space, and what we also have to do, of course, is remove these ticks. That's very important. So I'm going to say here, ticks, and I'm going to say a display false. By doing that, we remove all the ticks or the tick labels. We do have the tick marks, so we keep those in for now, so you can see the separation. So next, what I want to narrow down these bars here, and we can move a bit more to the right side. So let's start to do that one first. Let's reduce them. So we're going to say here bar percentage, and you can put it in here or in the percentage. There we are. You can put it in here or in the data set, but if you do it here, it will apply to every data set what I want. So that's this case here, so it should apply in both. Next, what I want to do here is make space here at the bottom. So I'm going to say here layout, and then I'm going to say here padding, and specifically I will pinpoint the bottom area. And then we can say here maybe 50 pixels, and we can always change that once we know the result. Alright, so that starts to look quite nice and works as expected. So what I want to do next is move this to the very end, or at least this border will be here, so we have some more space here because we're going to put some text here as well. So to do that, we're going to create now our plugin. So we say comma plugins, and then we're going to say here custom label or double label or anything else, or double. Well, let's call it custom scale. Copy that. Then we're going to say here, then here constant custom scale ID will be equal to custom scale, and I'm going to say here when would we like to draw this. We will draw this before the data set has been drawn. Why do we do this? Because the position of this must be done before it's drawn and not after. Once it's drawn, you cannot reposition it, or at least probably not that practical. I don't know exactly how you would do that, but I'm sure there's a way. But this is the best way to do it. So I'm going to say chart, args, and plugins. Then what I'm going to do here is say here an object destructuring. If you don't know what an object destructuring is, please check out my video in the description below. You can find it. So I'm going to say here the chart object, and then what I want to do here is ctx chart area. Not sure if we need all of them, but let's see. Width, height. Let me make sure we spell that correctly. I guess we need to have let's see here, width, and then of course I should spell it correctly like that, with height, left, right, top and bottom. I'll just put them all in there, but just in case if we don't need one, we can always remove them afterwards. Next, what I want to do here, I want to have the data, and we might need the scales. I am not certain, but let's put them in there just in case. So we have all of this information here. So the first thing what we need to do is we need to know how much space this segment is. And to calculate this, we're going to break down basically the amount of width that we have here from this point to here. So remember, this point to here has still a bit of space here. So what we have here, the width of the chart area, will give us instantly that specific space. But then what I want to do here is a constant. And let's say first, because I know the width here, I need to know how many data points we have. In this case, we have 7 data points. So the width should be divided by 7, will give us the space of every segment. So let's say a constant, and let's get here the data point length. And to make it very easy, I'm going to assume the data point length will be this one here, the labels. These are identical 7, 7, and here as well 7 data points. So I'm going to say here, this will be the data. This is why we have this object here, data, and then we're going to say here the labels, and just to give you a visual, we're just going from data to labels, and then say length of that array. Length. Then what I want to do here is constant, and let's calculate here the segment. And the segment, what I'm referring to is this point to that point here. That's specifically assigned to 1 bar. So we're going to say the segment will be let's see here, this is basically, we need to know how many, do we need to know how many ticks we have? Well, I think we can just get here the width. Oh, sorry, not the how many ticks, but just the data length point, of course. Sorry, that's what I was trying to refer to, but I'm getting confused with my notes. So if I do that, we should get here now a size that is how many pixels? 96 plus plus. All right, so I can quickly cross-check it if this is correct. So if we do this and then go here, we're getting close to 96. As you can see here, 96.23, but basically it's the first number that matters. So this is confirmed correct. So now we have this. What I want to do now is reassign the drawing to here. So to do this, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to say here data sets, and then we're going to use a for each loop. The reason why I do this is we have 2 data sets here, so we need to reassign all of them at the new position. So data sets for each, and then I'm going to say here for every data set, and we can say here the index, the function arrow expression, we're going to loop through them, and then after individual data points need to be assigned as well. So what I'm going to do here, we're going to get here another function where we do another for each loop, but then specifically for every data. So if I'm just doing here console log, probably you can find that here data set. If I save that, you can see here probably for every data set each. That should be for both of them, but I don't think of course you can see here the cost and the weekly sales. However, I need to have access to something more deeper. So what I'm going to do is here's a built-in functionality I'm going to use. It's a chart.get data set meta, and then I say here for every index of the data set, and then I'm going to say here dot data. By doing this, I'm accessing the metadata of the data set, which is basically the one that creates the animation and all these details that we need. I just like to grab that from, because that is basically how it defines the drawing, or at least it gets the data from this part. So what I'm going to do here now is say dot for each, and then I want to make sure we loop through each of these items. So I'm going to say here the data point of every data set. Well, first loop through the data set, and in that data set, it will loop through every data point in that specific data set. Since we have 2, it will just go through all of them nicely. Then we're going to see a data point, and we probably need the index, but I cannot use index again, or else it will conflict. So I'm going to say IND for now. I have no other term for it, but you probably understand what we're doing here. So then we have this, and what I can do now is say console log, and if I say here data point, save, refresh, we should get here a lot of information. And I guess what you're seeing here, the X and Y's, these are the animated items as well. Anyway, doesn't matter. All we need to do is make sure that all of these will be positioned here. So what I'm going to do here now in this area, I want to adjust the positioning of it. So how do I do this? I need to get here. Let's get the console log and grab the data point. Alright, that's already what I did, of course. But then here, if I look down here, we should see here somewhere the X value, which is basically the center of this segment. I want to readjust this and say now the X value will be here. So how do I do this? Well, I can say here X, data point of X, and if I then now say data point X will be equal to 10, and let's see what happened now. If I save this, alright, and as you can see, it is now repositioning all on top of each other. It stacks on top of each other, but of course this is not what we want. We want to make sure that it will loop through it, but you do get the confirmation it will loop through every one of these data points to stack them all on top of each other. So what I have to do here is to calculate this. So let's start to calculate that. So what I'm going to say here is the data point will be probably the segment. For every segment that we have, then I want to multiply this by, because we're in a loop, we need to do a index multiplication, but the index will be used on this data point here, the IND. So I'm going to say here IND, and then let's see here, well, I probably have to do something, but let's do it like that. And then plus the length, and I realize the length here, or well, let's see first. We probably have to fine tune this. Alright, as you can see, we're getting somewhere, but we're missing one here. And the reason why is in an array, the index starts with 0. So it multiplies by 0 here. So I need to say here 0 plus 1. So it will make sure that it will at least jump in here. There we are. While you look at this, you would say, well, why is this now still having some space between here? The reason why this is because of the tick, or this grid line here. How many ticks we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That means that there's like 8 pixels on top. So what I do here, I could say here plus 8 pixels. And as you can see now, it is nicely aligned with the tick mark at the very bottom. But of course, I don't want to do it like that. That doesn't make any sense. I want this to be soft coded. So this should be soft. So how do we do this? Well, we're going here up, constant. And then let me just give you a console log. I'm going to show you where you can find the tick marks. So we're going to say here in the X, that's why we have the X here, save, refresh. Soft is of course not defined, so I cannot do that. Alright. Then, what I want to do is, so what we want to do here is getting the ticks. So we want to calculate the ticks, and if I do here, oh sorry. We have here the X, and I scroll down here, you'll see here the ticks somewhere on the scales. There we are. And you can see here we have 7. So that will mean there are 7 ticks, so there will be 8 lines here, and all of these lines are approximately 1 pixel in thickness. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say console log dot ticks dot length and then -1. Oh, sorry, not -1. We will have 7 ticks, and then we do +1. Because we want to have 8 lines, or basically 8 pixels. It starts at here, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. So I'm going to say here constant, and then we're going to say here constant, and we say ticks length equals this. Alright. So once we did that, copy that, and we're going to put that in here, save, refresh. There we are. So now it works all very nice. So what we want to do next is figuring out our positioning, because this position, now the text needs to be underneath as well. And of course, you can play around with it if you don't want to hit the very right side of this. But that is basically here you can play around with how you want to have your segments and your positioning in there. So what I'm going to do now is we have this, we have that, and within this for each loop we're going to put in some text. So luckily we already know the positioning of this, which is basically this item here. So this we can be reused, because now what I can say here is I'm going to create a font, or I say ctx.font, and then we can say here I want this bold, because the first text line or layer, the first row, that's maybe the right term because it's almost like a table. The first row will be thick, and then the second row will be smaller, a regular font. So I'm going to say font size, and then we say font, and I'm going to say here bold, 12 pixels, and then the font family sans serif, which is the default font family chart.js. Then what I want to do here is I'm going to say here ctx.fill style to get the color, and I'm going to use here the British gray term. Next, what I want to do here, I want to have the ctx.fill text to write or draw the text on the canvas. So for this, we need to have three values: the text, the x value, and the y value. So now it becomes quite easy because we already know the x value here. So this data point x is our x value. The y value will be all the way here down and probably a bit more, but basically it is down here, this chart area. And the chart area here, there's a term for that we have prepared. It's called the bottom. Copy this, put it in there. Then for the text, just for now, I'll just say here text, save, refresh. Alright, so now we have a nice visual, and you can see it instantly positions it quite decent. However, its now alignment is text align to the left side, so it will skip the left and put it from left to right. So what I want to do here is to change that. Let's say here ctx dot. So what we're going to do here is the ctx dot, I guess, text align, and we can put this one equal to center. Let's see what will happen. Alright, we could even move it down to the bottom, but I think center is fine, and then after that we can start to reposition it step by step. So we have this one here, let's push it down by saying here for the bottom, if it's 12 pixels, we could say here maybe 12 pixels, maybe let's say 15 pixels, plus 15 pixels to push it a bit more down, and that looks quite nice. So now we have this. What I want to do is I want to add up another layer of the numbers, and the numbers I'll just grab them from here. I want to extract those numbers that we have here, and to make sure it's very different, we're going to give them all some unique numbers, or at least this one will be always 3, and the other one will be whatever the value is. So I'm going to scroll down here, and then here now we have the text here. Let's first grab this, and that needs to be Monday, Tuesday, etc., etc. So we still need to do this. Let's soft code this. So we're going to say here data dot labels, and then we're going to say here index, and then we're going to say here ind. There we are. You can even change the color of it, but I will leave that. That's not necessary in this case. So now what I want to do is I want to have the next one underneath, and that one will not be bold, because that should be unique and not bold. I'm going to remove that here. You just keep it still sans serif. You can change the color, but I will leave the color as it is. So because I do it like this, it will mean it will grab the values of these. Alright, so only this will change without the bold. So in here, I want to get the data label. So I say here data sets. And then here, I'm going to get the index. And then we can say here dot data. And then we can say here ind for the index of the data point. And this is the data set index. And then once we did that, we should have here numbers. I'm not sure you're able to see them. I have to push them a bit more down. So how do we push this down? Well, basically what we have to do here, we have to say multiply by the index number, or by the index number, yeah, for the data set. Maybe time plus, let's see, plus 2. Let's see. Oh, alright, that works very nicely because it will loop through it. Because this is of course index 0, so it will be up here. I don't want that, so I want to have the 1 down. So that's why we have here plus 2. Normally it's plus 1. from the 0 to make it 1, but this is already the 1, so this will be 2 and 3. Basically, that's the logic behind it. And you can see all these numbers are officially from here very up. Now let's put in the text here at the very front and then remove the tick marks. We're almost done here. So for this, we have a slight different structure, and in my opinion, we could even do this outside here, if I'm not mistaken, or, well, let's see. What I do want is, I want to have the description here, showing here the weekly sales. So let's do that one then. I guess we can just do it within here and call this the labels that we're going to put in here. It looks like a table, basically. So what I'm going to say here, again, font style, I'll just grab all of this here. I'm going to just borrow all of this. We can make this gray, or what would be even nice is maybe the color. So I'm going to say data.data sets. Then this will be the index number, dot, and then say here border color. And what I will do with the border color in this case, since one is an array and the other one is, it's an array but not really, we can remove it because it's only one value. I'm just going to use this trick now in this case. Single value for the border color. It's not an array anymore, and then it becomes easier to play around with. So let's change this color here as well. Save, refresh. Alright, so now what I want to do is the text should be this border red. And it's now not an array anymore, so it will become very easy for me to assign the value. So if I do this, font, text, align will be center, alright. Then I'm going to copy just all of this. But now I just need to change the position. What is the text I want to grab? I want to grab from the index, and then I'm going to say here the label. And what I refer to the label is the weekly sales, or the label cost. I'm going to grab that, save that, refresh. Alright, so now you can see it loops multiple times. I don't want that. It should be looped only one time, or maybe even outside of it. Maybe we could even do it outside, but I'll leave it for now. And just only look at how we can fine tune the position. So we have here this position all the time here. I want to push it all the way to the left side. So I'm going to say here left, or not even left, I can even do 0. And the reason why I'm allowed to do 0, because in the chart area, or basically this is the chart area left, if you want it like that, matching. Let me just show you. Save, refresh. As you can see here, it starts to work. This is quite decent already, but it clips off a little bit, but maybe if you have a long text, this can impact. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to say here, this will be the left, and alignment. Alright, then you can see here exactly matching, and then I want to push it all the way to the very start, which is 0. So basically here, this left will be 0, and then it will start at the pixel 0 on the X scale. Beautiful. So now we have this matching. What can we do here up? Maybe put another one here at the very top, and for that we can just, I guess we can copy this, put it in here. Maybe what I do want here is a different color. Let's call this the, I guess, table head, something like that. You can give it whatever you want. Color here will be gray. Let's make it British gray. And then here I'll just write the text. This will be a string value. We just say here finances. Alright, so it loops through this. So I don't want that because of the index here. I can just probably remove all of this. Just put it in there. And while I loop through it, it will not be noticeable because it will be just drawn on top of each other. This could be even outside of it, make a new for each loop, but I will leave it for now. But I think this is quite nice. Remove the ticks here. Draw on this. You can say here, what I could say here, I'll just make it display false, and then it removes everything, as you can see here, so it will just keep it more concise. And there we are. We have this. Basically we could push it a little bit more down if you want. Then you have to just play around with these numbers here. Make this 20. Let's see what happens then. I guess we can just test that, and probably you will see some additional space, and then the layout needs to be adjusted slightly. So if we save that, as you can see here, it pushes a little bit down, has a bit more breathing space, but this here should have now a bigger layout. Layout bottom, maybe 60 or 70. There we are. That looks much better. And that's basically how we can create our labels here.